Good day and welcome back to another Dbz Dokkan battle video. And in this video we're going to do something we've never done before on the channel. We're going to no item a red zone. It's not as exciting as it sounds. I'm very behind the curve on these things, but I felt the need to do something a bit different. Obviously Sunday is dropping a whole bunch of content soon. And I'm going to be covering all of that, and I'm super excited for it. But I really wanted to try and cover something I'd never done before, because one, I really like Trunks and Vegeta as a unit. In case you can't tell from my videos that all say how they're my favorite unit, and having finally got them, I thought it was time that I flexed the muscle a bit with them as a unit, and of course with other great units, and started showing some of the no item runs that can be achieved, because I don't like doing no item runs as like a matter of principle. Not that I dislike no item runs or anything, or I believe they're silly. I think they're a great form of entertainment. But I think a lot of people get caught up in evaluating units based on no item runs, and it distorts the community's view on the unit. Units looks great at 55% because they can beat an event with a Whis active or an Icarus active, and the community will go, well, no, you can't beat the game, no item with that, so they're terrible, or whatever the situation is. So I think you have to always take things with a pinch of salt, and I personally sit in kind of a situation where I go, you know what, I don't really want to make no item runs a huge thing. I do the no item run series, I do some older content there, which is great and it's cool, it's a lot of fun to see, but I thought we maybe just need to kind of take a look at basically doing some more current content and just having a bit of fun with that and seeing where it goes. So yeah, this is that no item run. So now that I've done a whole waffling explanation about it, let's talk about the actual team build, because that's really what everyone's here for. I don't think anyone actually cares about my reasoning or logic behind the item runs, or why I only do certain ones, or blah blah blah. So we're doing a Bond the Parent and Child team. In case you couldn't notice, we're rocking double int Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Vegeta, and Super Saiyan Trunks units that I believe are truly the best in the game. And people will say they're not, and that's fine. I agree with your disagreement, but I do not agree with your opinion. I think they're great. They link up really well with both the Tech Goku here and with the AGL Gohan, and this makes two very strong defensive pairings. So I'm very happy with how they perform overall. The team itself does great. They're a fantastic first slot tank that really helps to spearhead the team. Goku is a fantastic unit once you get him a couple stacks, and Gohan as well is also a fantastic unit that's going to help us out big time. One other kind of unit I want to say that we need to focus on to a certain extent is also Beast Gohan. He's a huge source of damage, especially in the int phases. His stun is also super helpful in the first int phase because it allows us to lock up Omega Shenron. But yeah, beyond that, I think the team is pretty self-explanatory. Tech Goku, AGL Gohan, the Vegeta and Trunks units all have God as a mechanism, and as discussed in a video I recently made, God is a very powerful ability because of the fact that it will halve essentially any damage you take after the defense calculation. So that's obviously something super important. On the other side of the spectrum, we have a couple very useful floating units in the form of the Kid Goku, a fantastic unit that creates rainbow orbs. He also gains damage reduction and has incredibly decent defense, obviously depending on how many orbs he gets, but generally pretty consistent. And he provides some good utility. He actually provides support to some of our rotations, which is very good. and he's just a great floater in general. Alongside that as well, we have Dbz Dokkan. Dbz Dokkan, again, being an exceptionally good damage unit that we're kind of rocking. A lot of people will say, why are you running Dbz Dokkan, or Least Gohan, or Fraudhan, or whatever silly name people want to come up for him? Well, the thing is, I've done a couple of these no-item runs as filming, and I can tell you categorically that I use Dbz Dokkan in pretty much all of them. Some as a main rotation unit, some as a floater, and he more than carries his weight, so I use him because he's good. Unfortunately, as much as it's difficult to recognize, he is a very good unit. Even if him not being permanently Dbz Dokkan is, of course, a little bit disappointing. So, Dbz Dokkan, very good, very top unit, and God Goku as well, exceptional unit to use. God Goku is a fantastic unit, great character, who does a lot of good things. His evasion is good, his critical chance is good, his defense after a couple of supers sits in a very, very good position, and he's got just the right timing for some of these red zone events. The 10 turns keeps him pretty well covered for the majority of the event. So overall, Goku's in a good position. Now obviously there's a couple of things we want to keep note of here. Firstly, we are at our biggest risk in the strength phase. I know that sounds weird considering how big the attack power from a Mega Shenron is, but we're at the biggest risk in the strength phase because we have quite a few physical units that we're going to use to counteract the int phases. So that's something that's very important. Secondly, we also need to make sure that we get our rotation set quite early on. It's very, very important that we stack with Tech Goku early on, because if we get low on health, we're going to be using him and his revive as an emergency method of circumventing using any items. AGL Gohan is a very important unit, but we need to make sure we stay above 58% health, especially going into the int phase, because we need his level of defense and his guard capabilities for that int phase, otherwise we're going to be in trouble. And last but not least, we want to try and get there relatively quickly, so that we can at least have some level of evasion available from the God Goku. Having his levels of evasion will help us out quite a bit, and it's imperative to note that we do want to have these good levels of evasion damage, because it is something super helpful. You'll also notice that I use the active skill of Dbz Dokkan during the strength phase, and there's a reason why. Personally, I want to get through the strength phase as quickly as possible, and Gohan is already attacks effective against all types against in Shenron. So using his active skill there is genuinely not as useful. Yeah, it's honestly genuinely not as useful as like people think. Yeah, because it doesn't do a lot of damage. Like, it interrupts, which is great, but you're never really going to be in a situation where his interrupt is going to interrupt his super attack. So basically what we need to do instead is we need to try and control and obviously circumvent this by using it rather in the strength phase. This will eliminate a potentially dangerous attack from strength and Mega Shenron, but it will also mean that Gohan does really good damage, and this good damage will enable him to take out a Mega Shenron, or at least speed up the process, which I personally find is far more important than potentially him doing it, even more ridiculous damage against the int Mega Shenron. So I like to use it during this phase, and you can see that he does a fantastic job. Another thing also that we need to be aware of is, you can see me here moving the Trunks and Vegeta into the third slot. This is of course a very big no-no because they lose their guard, but in this situation it's mandatory because I want them on the other rotation, and it's very, very important. Well, in this case we moved into the second slot, but you understand the logic behind it. Then we have God Goku, who obviously finishes off a Mega Shenron, and then we're in a very strong position. Now, we're still not out of the woods just yet, because in this position we have a very strong ability to tank normals, but tanking supers is going to be quite challenging. And the reason why tanking supers will be challenging is because Omega Shenron, the way he works, he will always fire his super attack on the final attack of every second turn. So not this turn, but the next turn, his very, very last attack, he will fire the super attack. And for whatever reason they made this has always been the case. But obviously that means we're going to, at the very minimum, take at least one super attack, which isn't great. Omega Shenron hits very hard, very, very hard. And there's very minimal mitigation that we can run against this. It's not so cut and dry the way people want us to run it. So I do think it is quite a, let's not say dangerous, but it is quite a challenging position to be in. So obviously we want to make sure that we have the most suitable units for the final slot. And that unit is going to be physical a la Gohan. And the reason why is twofold. One, after he fires off his super attacks, because of the fact that he's physical type and Omega Shenron is in type, he will quite, I don't want to say easily, but he'll, he will tank the super attack that Omega Shenron launches well. He will, tank it quite well. Secondly, there's also the chance that he, actually nullifies the super attack, which would be preferable, but not necessarily mandatory. We will still survive even if we don't nullify it. If we do nullify it, that would be fantastic. So, to each all, we obviously are quite happy with how things are functioning. So that's that, pretty much. The goal is to only ever face one super attack from him. We should have enough defense to kind of take this on. If we don't, then we should hopefully be able to heal through all of our various stacking units and kind of go for it again, which, isn't as possible as it sounds, but is a pretty possible situation. If we end up with God Goku active, we'll probably rely on his evasion to try and get us through as well, because his evasion does obviously help out quite a bit, and at the end of the day, we do want to try and make sure that we are on top of things and on track with things. I mean, look, we didn't even get a double super with Gohan or anything, which is super duper basically unrealistic. But we're still going to manage to wrap everything up, which is more than fine. We'll even do so with the active skill, which I think looks great. So yeah, that's it. Obviously, guys, no item runs, etc. I think people are like always going to have opinions on the item runs. I'm not really like super duper thrilled with them, in a sense that I don't think people should use them to measure units, but I do enjoy them, and I think they're a fun community-based challenge for people to look at. So yeah, that's basically it for me. Honestly, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I enjoyed running this team. You'll see there's a lot of units in this team again and again, as I continue to finish red zones with no items. But yeah, that's it from me. See you guys next time. Bye.